Hello and welcome to the dark web of the Wool Shift Us podcast breakdown of Silo Season 2, Episode 3. I'm Elysia, elected to represent your book reading interests.
And I'm Luke, the show-only fans MP, the font of ever more refined theories about aliens and other stuff, but mostly aliens.
Welcome back. If this is your first episode, you may want to start at the beginning of the season or the beginning of the entire series if you can stand a slightly lower audio quality. And there you will learn more about who we are and what we're each bringing to the discussion. But today we will be focusing on Season 3, Episode 3, A Dark Web, where secrets across two timelines converge, and we've got plenty of conspiracy theories about them. But before we get into it, Luke, just to put minds at ease, what is the full version of our spoiler policy for this podcast?
Okay, so the discussion will be spoiler-free beyond what's already aired. So there'll be full spoilers for Seasons 1, 2, and the first 3 episodes of Season 3. So Elysia can bring up anything in the books that's already happened on screen, but to protect mine and other show-only fans' innocence, there'll be no future book spoilers. And we won't discuss anything from any of the trailers that hasn't been shown on screen yet either. Listen to the 2 episodes released before this season started for deep dives into the trailers and other marketing materials that were released in earlier this year in May and June.
And the small note, as always, that when I speculate, it's genuine because the show is totally doing its own thing from the books. So if I can't talk about anything, I will just say so or say nothing and we will move on. But if you do want the full spoiler discussion and deep dives into all of the book secrets, then I recommend sticking around until the end when I talk about the book club podcast, where Abby and I are getting together every week for a deep dive into what we think is going on with the book lore in this show, and a special topic each week. This topic will be the mines, but this week I'm going to make up for, I'm sorry this episode is a day or more late, but I will make up for it by, we have an extra section at the end where I'm splitting the deep dive into the book mine stuff into 2 episodes. We will talk about the mine stuff discussed in the first book here and the mine stuff discussed in the 3rd book in the book club podcast. So, also, Luke, you and I just did a feedback episode. That was fun. Lots of good discussion.
We did, and we got a lot of feedback as well.
Yeah. We will probably wait a little longer for the next one after episode 6 because Luke's going to do a little traveling. So we're going to focus on getting the episodes out themselves. But there were a few quick pieces of feedback that we got based on that episode that we just put out. So people are quick. Good to hear from you. So let's start with, first of all, I raised the question. There was a YouTube comment asking me if I really had to say all the names of the actors. And so I put out a call. What do people think? Because I had gotten mostly people who liked it, someone who didn't. We got a couple of responses where Quilt Becca said, I appreciate hearing the actor's name when you first mention the character. It helps me to learn the cast and it shows respect to the actors. The TCS says, is this where I post yes to identifying the actor the first time you mention the character? I really like that. It's both informative and respectful to their work. So thank you. That and the other people have said similar in the past to me. I will continue with it unless I hear from other people that they are finding it annoying. So thoughts on that, Luke?
Yeah, if that's what the people want to do, we are but the people's elected representatives, so yeah.
Yeah, well, I do take a more active, I suppose, Juliet style role in the leadership where I'm like, it's also what I want to do. So.
Fair enough. I'm not going to argue with that.
Speaking of names, we also got some follow-up from Wayans, our official Czech name correspondent. They said, hi there. Again, just finished your memory manipulation episode. Thank you for mentioning my messages. I just wanted to add that I think I know why they made this change to Victor's last name. And then they linked to Matt Craven's wiki page, which reveals that Matt Craven's real name is Matthew John Cernkovich. So they just gave the character the actor's real last name.
Well, at least the actor's not going to have any problem remembering what his name is. So.
Well, I hope that's not a danger, but now I really hope it's not a danger. um, and then the last piece of feedback we got, two people's feedback about Daniel's personality, which we had a lively discussion about in the mailbag episode. Paul Kent says, there's so much fuss in the pod over Zuckerman's supposed underacting. Daniel's personality is quiet and reserved. It's all in the eyes and ironic smiles. He's not a confrontational person. Depends what kind of person you are, introvert or extrovert. I'd react in a similar, unanimated way. Other characters like Sims might punch Victor's lights out. And Zatuichi says, in my opinion, Daniel is reserved like me. So, like you, I think it's much more fuss than it's worth. But opinions vary on the topic drastically. And for the other side of that, listen to our mailbag episode.
I don't think Sims would punch Victor. I think he would push him down the stairs or over the
Sure.
side of the stairs.
That's harder to do if Sims were at that clinic. They
That's
just have
true.
that nice, just gonna like drown him in the pond.
Yeah,
It's much more active, though. It's probably a shallow pond.
that's true.
All right, let's get into the episode itself. Season 3, Episode 3, A Dark Web, slightly shorter this time at 48 minutes. It was released Friday, July 17th, 2026 on Apple TV. And this one, again, was directed by Michael Dinner. This is the final episode in his batch of episodes for this season. This one was written by Eric Avellino, who also wrote Season 1, Episode 6, the Season 2 finale, and directed Season 2, Episodes 3 and 4, and will direct this season, the next episode, Episode 4, and also 5 and 7. So very active on all sides, Eric Avellino. Of course, this is based on Hugh Howey's book series. Wool, Shift, and Dust is the main series. Plus, I do recommend the 3 short stories, although people get upset about the one of them. But this episode today that we're discussing is Juliet and Daniel are embroiled in parallel investigations across timelines as Juliet looks for Lucas in the Silo 18 present timeline, an investigation that plunges her into the menacing mines. In the past, Daniel tries to learn more about the mysterious mission that his sister can no longer remember. Luke, what did you think about Episode 3?
Okay, I'm going to admit up front, there aren't many tinfoil hat theories with this episode. There's a distinct lack of tinfoil. It's mostly just a lot of questions, particularly about what's going on with Camille and Robert Sims and how the reset process works. I think that there's one scene in this episode that I think we get a lot of information where Camille and Robert are talking to each other, and I think it opens up a whole can of worms and questions about how this idea of the reset works.
Okay. Yeah. I was surprised in that scene that Sims knows as much as he does, to be honest. But then I thought about it and was like, well, he obviously knows about the memory drug because he was overseeing that with Gloria. He threatened, or promised, I suppose, it to Patrick Kennedy last season. But I was really surprised that he knows what the D+ is.
Well, what I was thinking of, in episode 2, the algorithm says this has been attempted in 6 other silos, including Silo 18 twice. And we sort of speculated.
Once so far. They did it in the, well, at least that we know of. We know, and this is like the books. There was a memory reset 140 years ago during that rebellion, and it's supposed to be why it's been peaceful since.
Yeah, and we sort of speculated what that might mean for the other 40 odd silos.
Right. So 6 had a reset. What about the rest? Yeah.
What about the rest? And we said, does that mean that they didn't need a reset, or did it only succeed in 6? I think from what we've learned this episode, that it might be that the other 40 silos really are extinct. Because this reset sounds like a very... We'll talk about it more when we get to that part of the episode. But this reset sounds like a very uncertain thing, and it sounds like it could be very likely to you destroy a silo, basically.
Well, I wouldn't read what they're saying, like that the reset destroys the silo, basically. I mean, we'll talk about it obviously more
Yeah.
shortly, but basically that he's saying if it doesn't work, it's either the reset or the safeguard. And
Yeah.
we know the safeguard is what happened to Silo 17, to Solo Silo.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is the odds, given what Camille and Robert say in that conversation, I think the odds of it not working or the odds of it causing chaos in its wake go up substantially.
But he said basically he was urging her to do it more quickly because he's saying that it will make the chaos level go down.
The algorithm is, yeah.
Yeah, the algorithm's saying that. And he's saying basically Juliet makes chaos go up,
Yeah.
reset makes chaos go
I'm
down.
not. We'll talk about why when we get to it, but I don't think that's the case at all. I
Okay.
think the
Okay.
algorithm is completely wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, once again, we're burying the lead. Hurrah! I have saved another character.
You have like weird powers over this show, Elysia.
I just remember the characters and seem to have very good timing at mentioning them. So, well, welcome back to our screens, Mark Chambers. We'll talk about him.
Yeah, in a steampunk wheelchair. I want one. I want one. I want one.
Yeah. So next up, I'm targeting Gloria. Gloria, come on down. What happened? We last saw Gloria being tended to by Nurse Amy, who's now tending to Juliet. And Sims was basically kind of blackmailing her to cooperate to get these drugs where she could just fantasize a better life for herself, which I'm not sure if or how they are related to the other memory drugs, or if they're just like, I don't know. I'm not really sure. So I would love to know what happened with Gloria after that and how her drugs connect to all the other drugs, and where is Gloria? That's my new question.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we get into the episode itself?
Yeah, let's.
Your regularly scheduled breakdown will begin in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, as usual, we're going to be going more plot by plot than scene by scene. Today, focusing first on the Daniel part of the timeline before moving on to what's going on in Silo 18. And then, as I mentioned, there will be that special extra section today where we talk about what we know about the mines from the first book. And then Abby and I will take that mines discussion from there in the book club spoilercast. So, for this episode, let's begin in Daniel's world with making friends at funerals. Daniel, played by Ashley Zuckerman, visits the funeral of a man named Juan Almeida, Marcelo Cruz, the leader of his sister Charlotte's squadron in that fatal mission in Iran. There, at the funeral, he meets Juan's father, James Joseph Balderrama, who has his own suspicions about what the powers that be might be hiding about the mission that killed his son. Daniel mentions what Helen told him about the communication devices in their jets being switched out. James already knew. They'd been downgraded to comms discontinued even before his service a generation prior. A friend of James had handled the paperwork for the incident, and he told him that there was a good chance their mission comms could have been recorded. So what did you think about funeral times?
Yeah, it was interesting. There seems to be a timeline in which there has been even more conflict than there has been in our timeline.
Really? How so?
I sort of got that impression because he talks about Desert Storm. In the funeral, which obviously,
Yeah, so do you want to set up Desert Storm for anyone who doesn't, or maybe is too young to even remember?
So, backtracking. Desert Storm is the code name for the operation that liberated Kuwait from Iraqi occupation in 1991. So, Saddam Hussein, Iraqi dictator, invades neighboring state of Kuwait in August 1990, and a multinational coalition under UN leadership basically reverses the occupation, kicks the Iraqis out of Kuwait in a war that lasts, doing the maths, about 8 weeks. And the land war lasts 4 days, 100 hours. And there will be a book that talks about this in some detail coming out to all good stockists, probably in time for Christmas.
Oh, really? By whom?
By me, by Dr. Luke Middup of the University of St Andrews. This is chapters 3 and 4 of that book, actually.
And what's the title?
So the title is Britain and Iraq from Revolution to War, 1958 to 2003.
So yeah, it's very interesting that this is. I'm going to say that I already know we already had this sense before this season that the timeline of this show is they're making it closer to our own timeline rather than the timeline that's spelled out in the books. I think probably this also just has to do with ease of talking about our real world and filming in our real world and things like that. So, but what we learn is that they moved to DC right after James got back from Desert Storm. So that would have been in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And Juan was quote unquote a little boy. So we don't know exactly how little, but he looked to be in his 30s during his mission with Charlotte, right?
Yeah, so that puts it, I would say, no later than about 2028, 2029 at the very latest. Probably not even that far ahead. So basically, this is contemporary. The first Gulf War, the 1991 Gulf War, is the first conflict I can really remember. How about you, Elysia?
Yeah, I certainly remember it. I'll say my older sister was in the military, and not during Desert Storm. She, that's when I said that she was an air traffic controller in the Navy. So very Charlotte vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely, it is interesting because I think we're about the same age as Hugh Howey. I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but I think that we were shaped by the same conflicts of our childhood that were sort of our gateways of learning about the world of war.
Yeah, so I'm 42, so I was 8 when I was 8 when the Persian Gulf War happened, and being the young and impressionable nerd that I was, I insisted on watching the news before I went to school every morning. Yeah, I was always going to grow up to do what I do. It was preordained.
So as far as like the timeline, there was a theory that I was reluctant to say, but I don't see there's why I shouldn't say it. That this room code for the algorithm, it's 552039, and people were theorizing, is that an important date?
So 5th of May 2039. Okay.
Which would be, but does that, it feels like, and it's also, not to say that there's probably years that play out between where we are in the timeline and whatever importance this date might have. Although I'll say it's even earlier than I expected based on what we learned in this episode from Juan's funeral.
Yeah.
And this 2039 is more like 2050 something in the books, which doesn't really matter. It doesn't change anything, to be honest. I think they're just anchoring it more to our real times.
Yeah, I think that, like you say, and also there's the practical reason that it makes it easier to film as well.
Right. That's true. But yes, we learn that Juan's father, James, has been out of the military for nearly 20 years. And also, it sounds like his wife, Allie, he calls her in the credits. There's an Alessandra. I assume that's her, played by Carmen Abela, the woman standing next to him on stage. I assume that's Juan's mother. And apparently she was also over for a tour in the 90s. So that they're like a military family. And James, he sees the captain of the Nimitz and is like, I've been out 20 years and still like straighten up. So a lot of emphasis on this being a family of real, military men, so to speak.
So one of the things I do in my job is I'm the convener of the Strategic Studies Masters program at St Andrews. And what that means is we get a lot of junior career military people take a year out to go and get an academic qualification. And it's always really funny to watch them dressed in civilian clothes, because you can still pick them out a mile away. They just walk different. They sit up straighter. Even though they're out of uniform, they're not
Right.
out of uniform.
The body remembers.
Yeah. And like I say, they're just sort of taking taking a career break. So sort of dress shirt, khaki trousers, much more formal than the rest of the class, because that's just what they're comfortable with professionally.
Mm-hmm. Since I mentioned the captain of the Nimitz, should we mention who was with the captain of the Nimitz?
Oh, let's.
Reed Birney, back again. So that's the name of the actor, and we've seen him so far at the guy who was maybe following Charlotte on the metro in DC. We saw him inside the Stenton clinic watching Charlotte as she sort of broke down because Helen was triggering memories. And then we see him twice this episode. So this is the first of 2 times. Now, we still haven't learned anything about him, but I'll say he's credited with a first name, no last name yet, but he's credited with the first name Henry. So we'll just call him Henry. Do you have any thoughts?
Henry.
Thoughts about Henry?
Yeah. Well, it's not a big deal, but I didn't really follow the story about the burger.
I don't think that. I think that was just like, that was just color, like, oh, my son, he was a specific person with a specific personality who liked these burgers that I don't like, but I'm going to have one of those burgers I don't like in his honor today.
I just thought it was something to do with something, a story to tell away, but I didn't really follow the story, to be honest.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't anything important. It was just like, just remembering. I think when you lose someone, you remember I think there's a lot of things that maybe at the time you're like, oh, I wish you didn't eat onions or whatever, it makes your breast stink or something like that. But then, all right, here's one. When Robin Williams' character talks in Good Will Hunting about his wife.
Oh, about his wife farting, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things, like at the time, you're like, oh, this is like that annoying thing you do. But afterwards, you're like, oh, what would I give to just be next to you farting in bed again? What would I give just for you to be eating this disgusting burger again?
Yeah, I think that's what the point they were trying to make.
Yeah. I do question. So it looks like Charlotte and Juan, and also based on what James said, they were not just in the same unit together, but they were close friends. So that makes me wonder whether, especially since Daniel seems to maybe be working with James Wanstad, it makes me wonder if there will be any artifacts that turn up from that side that help trigger Charlotte's memories.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance of that. Because you have to think that these people, our squadron mates would spend an awful lot of time together.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time together.
Yeah, and obviously,
and not just in a work environment. They would socialize a lot together as well.
Right. And something that triggers a memory of him, it's different than triggering a memory of Donald will be separate from her mission, but triggering a memory of him will likely, link up to that web of memories that shake something loose on the mission as well.
Yeah.
It was interesting that we were told, Helen had implied when she explained it to Donald, that the comms device on their jets was switched out for security reasons, to make them more secure, so they couldn't be like hacked through high tech. But now we have pointed out in this episode that actually it makes the recordings themselves less secure, because now they can just kind of be picked up by anyone who's listening. And so Donald asks at the funeral, well, why would they do that? And James says, prevent jamming? I don't know, but expose them to a whole lot more. Do you have thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, it would be easier to I was going to say it would be easier to record, but that's not quite right. It would be easier to record and have something that was intelligible, because you can pick for sort of more advanced aircraft. You can still record stuff, but it's very heavily encrypted communication. So unless you have some really powerful software, sort of working away at it, all you're going to hear is just a series of clicks and whistles, basically.
Hmm. Okay. But if we go along with their explanation about the security or lack thereof, why, if it wasn't about, if it actually exposed them to be more easy to record, why would they do it?
Well, if my theory about aliens is right, you want to make it as analog as possible, so the aliens can't interfere with the software, can't take control of the planes.
Okay, for
Possibly.
hacking more so than overhearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was where my mind went anyway.
Okay. So I mean, so even if it's not aliens, then that would apply that it makes them easier to hack rather than maybe that's what they're prioritizing over listening in.
Yes.
Say. Okay. Yeah, and then we also hear that James's friend told him he was like, "Yeah, I did the paperwork, and like it's weird that they did this because anyone could have recorded it, but don't think about the recording that I just told you could be out there existing." So I don't know if somebody said that to you, would you want to hear the recording?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like that thing of don't look over there. Don't think about pink elephants. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, if he didn't want him to think about it, don't tell him. But I would want to know. I always want to know everything. I'm like, just tell me.
I'm the same.
So, okay, that was an interesting choice. Any more thoughts about this funeral sequence?
Nope.
All right, well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, let's check in on Helen, about to get fired. Be right back.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
All right, smut rag no more. Helen Drew, Jessica Henwick, slinks into work, brazenly working on her own quote-unquote serious story rather than whatever slop she was assigned to push out for clicks. She takes a call from Daniel, who fills her in on his meeting with Juan's father at the funeral. And Daniel admits he wouldn't know where to begin looking for the mission recordings on the dark web, but Helen says she does. Helen hangs up and is reprimanded by her boss, Philip, Charlie Anson, who fires her on the spot. Her belongings have already been packed in a box, and security is waiting to escort her out. And we'll say this is the second time we see Reed Birney, a.k.a. the character apparently named Henry. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I did think it was kind of cool that the outlet Helen is working for is called Zoz.
Yeah,
which is
why?
Yeah, because Caitlin Zoz plays Kathleen Billings, so I just thought that's clearly where that came from. I see you put in the notes because I was going to make the same point. This looks more like a post 2009 crash sort of.
Well, 2000. I specifically put 2012 because so for anyone who doesn't know, my background is in more entertainment, lifestyle, and culture journalism. And so I am of the generation that started, working for actual magazines. And then 2012 was the year that within a month, all the magazines that I wrote for, I was working full time for Time Out Amsterdam and also doing freelance work for other magazines, and they all collapsed within a month. And then I found out that it wasn't just in Amsterdam, it was actually a global thing that happened in 2012 and 2013. That was really when all of the paper stuff started to really go online, which changed things for us journalists. But things have been a lot worse, I'll say, 10 years later when AI hit, that it was actually now I was so when obviously 2012 was a really scary time for me. And then, I found my footing again doing, I went from getting paid trips and meals that I got to write long think pieces about to doing listicles for a lot less money. And that was a major hit. But now I really am nostalgic for those days. After 10 years later, we were hit by AI, and things have gotten much, 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 much worse since then. So Helen, that's another thing like about dating this. Helen does not seem to be in that environment post AI. She seems to be in the post 2012 paper media crash where, yes, it's annoying and you're doing like these clickbait articles, but at least there was a full buzzing newsroom there. Hmm. Also, I felt for her when I've seen that happen to someone before where they were fired and had to hand over a laptop without warning. And it's like, oh, yikes. And this is why I've never taken a work laptop. Like, you can take my right, my right to access certain, like clouds based stuff away. But, if people put personal stuff in their laptop and then suddenly they're just confiscating on the spot. Like, yikes. What did you think about? Did you think it was fair that she got fired?
I mean, probably, but I don't like anybody getting fired for anything. And I certainly don't like people like there's no process there. There's no like it's just like you're fired, get out. I don't like that.
Mm. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the typical American, right? But I was also, I was like, listen, I understand it sucks that you have to write this slop. That's what you're paid to do now instead of actually engaging your brain and writing things that you care about. But that is a job that you were hired for. So even Andy from The Devil Wears Prada 2 gets that when she needs to find stories that serve both interests. Like you can't just be like, oh, you want me to write a gossip mag thing, but no, actually I'm going to write a think piece about war. Like, I'm sorry, what publication do you think you work for right now?
I don't, but I mean, also what she was being asked to write sounds really skeevy. It's about the sex life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The sex lives of people who claim to be celibate but aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's been a major issue. Is like I said, you don't get to write about the things that you care about or think are important or even feel good about. That's what's been happening ever since 2012, especially, but then especially since 2022. Yeah, so I feel for her on that, but it is also like you gotta find a way. You're just being really blatantly working on something else. But the fact that Henry is there, the Reed Birney character, is like, well, maybe she's not wrong about there being something nefarious behind it.
Yeah, and maybe that was not the reason she was fired.
Yeah, and I do love the suggestion that it's nefarious government influences making the media just produce fluff and not the stupidity of people. But I wrote here, it's basically panem e circenses. What is that?
Bread and circuses.
Elaborate.
Well, it's the Roman practice of the alleged Roman practice of trying to distract people from paying attention to what's going on by giving them cheap food and entertainment.
I mean, it's documented Roman times and since.
Yes.
but yeah, people who are like, Panem, isn't that what the Hunger Games is called? Yes, that's exactly why it's called that. And it's also, yeah, it's the whole Gladiator. That's what you're seeing in Gladiator, that whole thing. So yeah, the idea, I'm tickled by the idea that in this story universe, nefarious government or medical interests, we're not really sure who this Henry guy is yet, but they are influencing the media to just make slop to distract people.
Sounds about right, yeah.
All right, let's go on a road trip with Helen has found something, or someone at least. So she and Daniel take a little road trip to meet a hacker going by the name Steve Ed Coleman. He's found something and insists they come in person to get the information, but it turns out to be a ruse to get a copy of Daniel's congressional ID. And then he plans to screw them over on his end of the deal, merely confirming the existence of such a recording and nothing more. But once Daniel tells him his sister is one of the voices on the recording, Steve relents and lets them listen. So what do you think of Steve?
Oh, sketchy as hell, like just uber sketchy. And also, he reminded me he's got the same haircut as Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men, and that is the haircut of psychopaths.
I mean, I think he's a conspiracy theorist character. I'll say shout out Gail on Blue Sky commented on our feedback post. Don't let Luke read what's on the hacker guy's screen. If you pause it just before he goes to his chess game, one of the comments is about about extraterrestrials. So,
and now I'm going to go and do it again. That's like telling me not to think about the comms.
Well, say anyone who wants to see it, I did post that screen in the chat, and I'll tell you, summarize for you what's on that screen right now. It says, yeah, the Abyss. I think the Abyss might be the name of the chat board where they're talking about conspiracy theories. But the title of this post is "Mass Whale Deaths: What Really Happened." And so they say there's just discussion about apparently a bunch of whale deaths somewhere in the Atlantic. And so one person says, ex-Navy guy said they're testing acoustic crowd control tech underwater. Someone else said it was near underwater volcanoes and they had an unexpected reaction and that there were booms over the Atlantic a month ago. Someone else mentions a leaked document from 2004 about acoustic propagation tests. Someone says they're pumping electromagnetic frequencies into the atmosphere that can destabilize entire ecosystems. Someone else posits extraterrestrials. Someone else references general unrest, wars, collapsing economies, and says the Earth is just lashing back against humanity. Everything is connected, man.
Oh.
So keeping in mind, these are from conspiracy theorist boards. So there's probably some kernel of truth somewhere in some of those with many grains of salt you should be taking heaped on top. So, thoughts?
Aliens. It's aliens, man. It's aliens.
What if it's not, though? Let's do always, you can say aliens, but let's also say, what if it's not?
Okay, what if it's not? It could. I mean, it could be the what the fuck cloud. I suppose could be some kind of natural phenomenon. You know, it could be the Earth. The Earth basically trying to heal from the presence of humanity. I guess. It could be any of those things that were mentioned.
But why would it look like an oil that like flies in little bits?
I don't know. It's aliens. I'm sorry. I just can't get off the aliens.
Okay. All right. And I'll say that Steve was also playing. We saw a chat where someone he got a DM from somebody called Uprisor724. It says, IMB tracked you. I'm not really sure what that means. If anyone has thoughts about that.
I don't get that.
But then he turns to the chessboard. So I don't know if it has to do with that. And we see that it looks like he's called X-File 1013, I think, and the other player's called Bigfoot Lives. And this is someone he's playing chess with. And my crackpot theory now, for lack of anything else, is what if it's the person he's playing chess with who kidnaps him later? We'll talk about that later, obviously.
Okay. Interesting it mentions the X-Files, because this did put me in mind of the lone gunman character from the X-Files, the three sort of hacker nerds from the X-Files who Mulder and Scully will go to from time to time for help with anything technical, although the difference being that they were nice, generally cooperative, rather than being dicks. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve is a real character. He says he's not working for anyone, just one of many like-minded individuals holding government fuckers like you accountable by intercepting communications, man. But I mean, it's one thing to say that, and another thing to like demands like I'm going to copy your ID, which feels like it's inevitably going to get him in trouble somehow.
Oh, massively, yeah, hugely.
And he also like asked him to turn over their phones when they entered. I'm like, did he dink some data from there? And then he wasn't even going to let them listen to the recording.
No, he's just telling them that it existed.
He's like, yeah, their intermediary, who's apparently some guy named Byron, should have been more specific. I'm like, well, fuck Byron and double fuck you, Steve.
So presumably that's a contact that Helen has.
Yeah, or someone she found on the dark web.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I do wonder... Like, I say the name Byron, we'll see if that's just a throwaway name that never comes up again, or if that is like a contact she has who helps them find other things. And yeah, and I do think Steve is not very smart for having them come there, though. He threatens to mess with their search histories if they tell anyone about this place. But it feels like if he were really being precautious, he should have just had them meet in a public place and brought his laptop.
Yeah.
But then he wouldn't have had the recording.
And also, like...
They wouldn't have been able to go back there.
Yeah, also I get the impression that he's probably quite agoraphobic.
Agoraphobic? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Just misanthropic.
Yeah, possibly. And like I say, he has the Anton Chigurh haircut, so that's the haircut of a wrong'un.
Yeah, well, I'll say I'm not impressed by his conspiracy theory skills because he didn't even notice that Daniel and Charlotte have the same last name until it's pointed out to him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I hadn't considered that, but yeah, good point.
That's a pretty big one. Yeah. So okay. So this recording that they hear, first of all, Helen doesn't think Daniel should hear it. Like I would, this is where we see a spark of Daniel backbone where he's like, there's no way I'm not listening to that. I'm like, yeah, I would be even angrier about it than he is.
Yeah.
I'd be like, how dare you listen to it first?
Yeah. Don't police me on stuff like this.
Yeah. But okay. So as far as what they heard, we know it's only 20 seconds, but I did pull, there is on YouTube, there's a whole clip of that mission, including the comms. So I pulled and clipped it down to just the just what we hear on the comms and the sound effects, obviously. So they only heard 20 seconds of it. I'm guessing it's the last 20 seconds, but here's everything that's said.
Coming up on the McCain.
I have visual at 9 o'clock.
Okay, folks, this climb to 50,000.
75 clicks to target. Then zoom and boom, back to
Uncle Chester.
Raider 2, copy.
3 copy. 4 copy. Y'all seeing this cloud up ahead?
What the fuck's a cloud doing at 50,000 feet?
Look at the tomahawks. What the? We're 500 clicks from target.
Raider 4, I've got something weird on my instrument.
Battle. Raider 1, looks like oil. Raider 3, yeah, I've got it too. What is it?
Raider 1, I'm armed!
I can't!
So I'll link the full video clip in the show notes. It's just on the Apple TV YouTube channel, but I'm guessing it was the most dramatic 20 seconds of that conveniently. Presumably, right?
Presumably, yeah. I've got to say, when I watched the episode, I didn't get the Raider 1 I'm armed bit. I didn't hear that, which is interesting, because that might suggest that the cloud or whatever it is like setting off the fusing for missiles or bombs or whatever ordnance they were carrying. I just thought it was the cloud got into the intake valves of the engines and that oil messed with the internal mechanics of the plane, and that's what caused them to explode. But if he's saying I'm armed, that possibly indicates that whatever that cloud did, it messed with the ordnance, the bombs, missiles, whatever aboard the aircraft, which is interesting.
Wait, so you think that they're saying that pilot is saying they did not intend to be armed, but the thing turned it on?
Yeah, it's possible. What I'm saying is it's possible that that basically it messed with the payload, that it armed a bomb or a missile that was inert.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't consider that, but okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That, and you think that would just be like from interaction from it, or something intentional, or
who knows? Either is entirely plausible.
Creepy either way. I mean,
yeah, creepy either way.
Yeah,
creepy and lethal.
Yeah, well, certainly lethal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you know about radio communications like this, but I was surprised to hear it was recorded by someone in Moldova, which is not especially close to the Iran-Turkmenistan border, which is where we had heard before that they were.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't really know enough about the technology involved to be able to say whether that's weird or not.
Yeah. I don't know. If anyone does, please write in and let us know. But we heard that it was taken offline 5 minutes after posted, but Steve recorded a cassette. So another retro technology piece. He said, I only fuck with analog if I can help it. So it's interesting that
Can you even buy those anymore?
Cassettes? Sure. Why not? Yeah. But it is interesting that both the conspiracy theory and the government is on the same page about rolling back the technological developments.
Yeah.
Even though I'll say this is also a guy who has like a full panel of like computer monitors and scanners and blah, blah, blah. So he can't really be so holier than thou on that.
No, not really.
What did you think, though, of just about the road tripping part? What did you think about the interactions between Daniel and Helen this episode?
Well, like you put in the show notes, I like a bit of Florence and the Machine. Whoever's doing the jukebox soundtrack for this season with the Peter Gabriel and the Florence and the Machine, yeah, I very much I approve.
Yeah.
I did like.
Do we think so? Is Ships a Wreck by Florence and the Machine, which was released in 2015, by the way, so another dating piece. But do we think that was Helen's choice?
That was Helen's, yeah. Was. It was Helen's car. It was Helen's car, wasn't
true,
it? So,
true,
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
What do you think Daniel listens to?
I don't know. I'm thinking with the Georgia background, probably a bit of country and western.
Yeah, you think? Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. I hope that like he surprises us and it's like death metal to unleash. You know?
Yeah.
Because sometimes death metal fans are like the quiet introverts, and then that's how
just need to get some stuff out of his system. Yeah.
Yeah. What else did you think?
I really like the bit about Helen talking about being fired, and Daniel does what the very Daniel thing of, well, you didn't really like your job, people tend to notice that, and it's like, and Helen's just really pissed off at that, and then Daniel does I think he does it as a joke. Oh no, Helen, it's awful. Those shits.
That was because he was like, on the one hand, she was like, it's so weird I was fired. And he has like the natural, just not thinking foot and mouth response of like, did you do a good job? Because you said you didn't like it. She's like, what the hell? And he's like, oh, sorry. So sorry, those assholes.
Yeah, thank you. That's better. But also, I know it wasn't a date, and it's been explained multiple times that it wasn't a date. But they do definitely have chemistry.
Yeah. No, and the other, like, the interaction at the beginning where she's looking for the address that they're looking for, and she just like hands Daniel the wheel. She's like, "Here, you steer," while she like turns around and digs around in the back seat. And I think that's a really fun way to show the difference in their personalities.
Exactly.
Where he's like, "Oh shit!"
I like Daniel is sweating bullets while he's trying to keep the car in a straight line.
Yeah. And I, of course, had to pause and look at the first page of her notebook. I put the picture of that in the Discord if anyone's interested. But basically, it just seems to be notes about Charlotte. She's just like, "Oh, brother from Georgia," and stuff like that. So nothing too illuminating there that I could see. But if anyone sees anything more, please write in or hop in the Discord and discuss. And then, as they drive away, Helen questions what could cause something that horrific, like they heard in the recording. What could take control like that, everything at the same time? So that's what we're wondering too.
Yeah.
And then round 2, we don't get that much of Daniel's world this time, but we see again that when Helen and Daniel make it back to DC in their drive, Daniel's like, actually, let's turn around and go back and see Steve again. Because Daniel, he wants the recording and he wants to share it with public. However, when they get back to Baltimore, they find the lock to Steve's hideout busted open with the interior tossed, and Steve is missing. So what do you think happened to Steve?
I think Henry happened to Steve. I think the only way that makes sense is if something's been done to Helen's car, so there's some kind of tracking device in her car. Also, they only handed their phones to Steve once they were actually inside the building, so it could be their phones as well.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder. I did want to point out, she said Rayburn, and I looked it up, and Rayburn is the House office building. So that's where Daniel would work. Daniel would work as a congressman.
So it's named after Sam Rayburn, who was a Speaker of the House of Representatives in the 40s, 50s, 60s.
Okay. And today I learned.
Yeah.
As far as Steve, I mean, I shared my question about his chess buddy. I do wonder if Helen is being bugged since, or maybe even Daniel too, since we've now seen, we've seen Henry following definitely Charlotte and definitely Helen. And the fact he was at the funeral too means he's probably also following Daniel.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do wonder if they are being bugged or tracked somehow, and that's how they found Steve, or if, through another way, like the chess buddy. We shall see. I am curious. That is not book stuff. There's no Steve in the book.
Okay.
All right. Any more thoughts on what's happening in Daniel's timeline?
Only that if Steve has picked up on this, he's not going to be the only one that has, and you can't go around kidnapping everybody. So sooner or later, this is going to start to leak out into the public domain, and it will be interesting to see what happens when it does.
Yeah, you kidnap a conspiracy theorist, then all of his conspiracy theorist friends are going to be like, what happened to him?
Yeah, where'd Steve go?
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, where we're going to go is on a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Silo 18. All right. Juliet is ready to reclaim her identity. Nurse Amy, Jacqueline Bursis, continues to hover over Juliet, Rebecca Ferguson, asking about her health and pretending to not have already discovered that Juliet is actually spitting out her pills. And under their new understanding, Deputy Jerry, Liam Akpan, looks away as Juliet slips into the bathroom to do so again. She tells him that today she would like to walk the silo by herself, and Jerry reluctantly agrees. After they leave, Amy reports Juliet's new pill spitting habit to Camille Sims, Alexandria of Riley, and Camille tells her to just keep up the facade. So, what do you think is Amy's deal? I wrote a mean word about her here that Americans would be offended by. Um, but maybe I'm being unfair to her because do you think she looked uneasy about tattling on Juliet, or do you think what do you think Camille has told her about what's going on?
I don't think she knows very much, to be honest. I certainly don't think she knows what the pills actually are or what they do. Um, I'm not sure she looked uneasy. It's just I think she's very much in the vein of following orders. Basically, Camille Simmons, head of IT, tell me to do something, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to ask many questions.
I guess I assign her a bit more individuality of thought. Um, I think that Camille has told her enough that makes her understand that there is the safety of the silo at stake. And the thing is, it's not like Juliet is her first patient in this regard because we know she was
No,
also
that's true.
Gloria's nurse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And presumably others who the silo needed to keep quiet. So I wonder if she has if Sims knows all about the forget drugs, presumably others do as well, and I wonder if she's one of them.
That's a good point. And actually, maybe she would need to know in order to be able to administer the drugs safely, or to be able to see whether somebody was having like an adverse reaction.
Sure.
To them.
Yeah. From a medical perspective, that makes sense. Because we know also, like we saw with Juliet's dad, that he was doing the thing where he faked taking out the birth control pill, and he didn't know all the details, but he knew enough that he thought that he was doing it for the betterment of the silo, even though he didn't think about it near as deeply as he later wished that he had.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Well, we also have questions for Shirley. A porter delivers a note to Shirley, Remy Milner, from Juliet. I heard you took Lucas Kyle somewhere during the rebellion. Wherever he is now, I need to find him. I was hoping you might have some idea. But Shirley hides the note from Knox, Shane McRae, claiming it's about construction delays. But Knox knows something is off. Yeah, how do you feel about the Sherlocks of it all?
Oh, I'm sticking to it being Shroxy. Okay. I prefer.
No, you use your preferred name. I'll use mine.
I prefer Shroxy, and I'm loving the Shroxy of it all. Particularly, Shane McRae in his boxers, Remy Milner in top and boxers. Clearly they've just woken up. They are now living. Well, we don't know that they're living together, but they're certainly spending the night at each other's places. Mm-hmm. So that's cool. I did think it was interesting that Shirley kept the note from Knox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure why she did that, to be honest, other than privacy.
Yeah, I mean, we know she's a very secretive person, but I will say, like, I still haven't forgotten that Knox has been a narc in the past. Because not only did he turn in Juliet, which I brought up recently, but also remember when he had Cooper following Shirley around, and I know he did it for what he wanted to keep peace in the silo, and he thought Shirley was stirring shit up, which to be fair, she was. But I wonder if Shirley remembers that too, even as much as she's like, yes, we're in a relationship now, but she's still like, maybe you're not the first person I tell about shady things.
Yeah, I probably let Knox off too easily about that, to be honest, because I like him. But yeah, no, it's true. I probably let him off too easy.
I mean, but I also think it's Shirley just being,
just being Shirley. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So question, we see there's this focus on something on her hip, like a scar or a birthmark or something. I don't recall seeing it before.
No, but have we ever seen Shirley anything other than fully dressed before?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't recall her getting an injury or something that should be reminding us of, is what I'm saying, basically. I think it's more that we should take note of this mark and we'll find out later where it came from. Something with Juliet, though, because she's thinking about Juliet and then she looks at her hip.
Yeah, tattoo maybe.
Yeah, it looks more like a birthmark or a scar or something.
Okay.
I don't know. And then the other thing in this scene is like, so she's like, oh, it's about delayed rebar again, which was obviously a lie. But I think that we're supposed to remember, oh, there's delays in fixing the stairs. I wonder, I was thinking, could it be about the barrels? But I don't think so, because the barrels, like supply and the barrels are both, I think, if I recall correctly, or I don't know if I'm conflating the book, but I think that the explosion took place outside of IT, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought, at least,
Yeah.
which is on level 19 in the show, higher than it is in the book. In the book, it's 34. But yeah, so that means that supply obviously is much closer down toward mechanical. We're not really sure where water filtration is, as far as I know, but that would presumably also be below the gap. So I don't think whatever's going on in the gap would affect the barrel situation.
And we did get it confirmed again that the episodes are proceeding a day at a time, because when Juliet goes out to walk the silo, she says, Jerry, do you remember what we talked about yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
So are we saying that just remind me, I might be getting this wrong, but are we saying that the vitamin D plus is going to take 3 days to get to water filtration?
Well, not after this episode, because the voice said expedite it, and Camille said that that it was like going to be 19 hours or something.
Well, I don't get that.
When she talked to Sims.
Oh yeah, but I don't get that, because how are you gonna speed it up? Are you gonna send more porters? Like it takes
well, they said at first that they could only do it at night, and
Okay.
now I guess they're doing it during the day as well.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, okay, let's talk about this gap. I have here two bad bitches meet. Oh no, before we get to the gap, right? Sorry, this is about Juliet surprises Kathleen Billings, Caitlin Zaz, of the magazine name, with a home visit. Kathleen tells her the sheriff left last night to follow up on a missing persons report in the Mids. While she's there, Juliet asks Kathleen what she knows about Patrick Kennedy and Lucas Kyle, and Kathleen deflects, claiming to be busy. However, Kathleen claiming to have never heard of the silo's famous fugitives, especially Patrick Kennedy, makes Juliet even more suspicious. Noting Kathleen's injured wrist, Juliet flat out accuses her of being part of the IT break-in in episode 1, and she tells her she doesn't want to have her arrested, she just wants to find Patrick Kennedy. Kathleen insists Lucas Kyle is dead and that Kennedy knows how to hide where he'll never be found. Thoughts on this interaction?
Yeah, I mean, Kathleen Billings is getting sort of really into this outsiders group now, and I think it's going to be really interesting the extent to which Sheriff Billings is going to actually be able to protect her, because I think she's not really cut out for this in the way that Patrick Kennedy is. Patrick Kennedy is somebody who has spent a large part of his life living outside the Pact, living outside the mainstream of the silo. Kathleen Billings really is not that type of person, so I just don't think she has the skills to be a successful quote unquote criminal.
She's a rebel. That's not a criminal.
I put it in quotes.
Is Leia Organa a criminal? I say no. Yeah. I mean, I thought, for me, the thing that especially stuck out here was that Juliet is like really being Juliet, even if she doesn't really remember everything. Like, just, it was quite bold of her to be like, so I see you hurt your wrist. Obviously, you're the one who did the break-in. Like, let's just be blunt about it. And
yeah, Knox makes that exact point later on in the episode.
Yeah. And I applaud Juliet for her bluntness, to be honest.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, Kathleen knows that Juliet's met with Patrick Kennedy and co. I guess she doesn't know where Juliet stands after that, but she knows she was willing to go there at least.
Yeah, I mean, she's at least willing to hear Patrick Kennedy out. So from Kathleen's point of view, that's got to mean something.
Yeah. Also thought it was messed up of Juliet. She's like, does your husband know you're an outsider? It's like, oop, Billings implicated.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently this is the first time the two women have ever met. And of course, Juliet wouldn't remember, but Kathleen's like, no, yeah, we never met. And Juliet's like, oh, you're the wife of my deputy and I never came by to say hi. Like, maybe I'm kind of a self-absorbed bitch. Like,
yeah,
I feel like she's learning some things about her she doesn't necessarily like.
Yeah.
I'll just say, since we saw Kathleen with the baby, I saw somewhere, was it on the Discord? Someone was asking about childcare, and I just wanted to point out that they do have schools and daycares in the silo. Obviously, we see Anthony's school this episode, and we've heard mentions throughout the show, and groups of school children, and Solo visited his school in Silo 17. So yeah, they do have like a robust childcare system in the silo. So never worry about where the children are. They're being taken care of. And so yeah, Kathleen says that Patrick Kennedy has hunted Lucas for months and even had them following his mother and found nothing. And apparently they questioned his mother, and what she told them at least is that the last time she saw Lucas was the last time we as an audience saw him, which was in the season 2 finale when Sims was in her apartment waving his gun at both Lucas and his mom.
Okay. Well, that with what we find out later in the episode, that does make sense.
Yeah. So he used the chaos of what happened in the finale to bugger off to the mines, it seems, as we learn.
Exactly.
But then there's the question is brought up again of what Bernard and Lucas talked about in the stairwell in the season 2 finale. So that conversation again happened after Lucas spoke to the door in the basement and right before Bernard decided to go outside. What do you think that conversation was about?
I'm not sure. I think it's something along the lines of, we know about the safeguard because Bernard says something to the effect, I know who, but I don't know why. So I think what it is Bernard knows about the algorithm. He knows about the safeguard. I think what Lucas told him was who was behind the algorithm, like who is controlling or programming or interacting with the algorithm. Because I'm not convinced that I think the algorithm is like I was going to say a middleman, but a middle entity between the people of the silo and whoever it is that's actually in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say the majority of people online, and I tend to agree, think that it has something to do with the safeguard because it just seemed like maybe that the safeguard was about to be implemented or something, because it just seems like whatever Lucas said to Bernard just made him give up and just be like, it's over. What's the point? But then, yeah, that is the question. Like, would Bernard have known about the safeguard? Obviously, knowing about the resets is something that even the head of judicial knows, or security.
Camille has been told about the safeguard, so we have to assume that Bernard was.
Yeah, although the algorithm said to Camille, like, we're well outside. Well, he said I think we're well outside the Pact, but my presumption is that the algorithm is taking more liberties in this quest to save the silo.
Maybe, but I'm not sure the algorithm. I'm not sure the algorithm has the ability or the inclination to care one way or the other about what happens to the individual silos. It may be programmed to save humanity in general, but I'm not sure it has the capacity to care about the individual silos.
I mean, it depends whether or not you believe it, but there was that interaction in the season 2 finale where Sims says, "I want to save this silo," and the algorithm says, "So do I," and then tells him to get out.
Yeah, that's
talk
true.
to your wife about that.
That's
but
true.
so the algorithm at least expressed an interest in saving Silo 18, but who's to know if the algorithm can feel or feels that or what, but at least express
but
that.
I mean, if it's been left for 300 years, sort of 352 years running itself, who's to say that it's not a sort of Skynet situation where it's been able to evolve beyond its original programming?
Yeah. So we also learn that after the rebellion, Kathleen tells Juliet, Paul said the bodies were 3 deep over the circulation fans on 144. And so this would be because that, wherever the people died in the silo, if they fell over the railing, they would end up in the same place at the bottom, on where George ended up over those fans. And Juliet, I just can't help but think she might not remember being part of Mechanical, but she knows intellectually, at least, that these were her people who were buried 3 deep the bodies afterward. So that's a lot.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought the algorithm said something interesting as well that didn't quite square with that, because we're led to believe there are 10,000 people in the silo.
Yeah, so that means that there was, that's somewhere else here, 9,913 people left. So that implies that, I mean, if there were exactly 10,000, which probably there weren't, but that would imply about 87 people died.
Yeah, which wouldn't be stacked 3 deep.
Well, the area is not that wide.
I suppose, yeah.
If they fall down the central shaft.
I suppose, yeah. Yeah, no. I hadn't really... Okay, scratch that. I hadn't really thought that through.
And we also hear they were running the incinerator 24 hours a day.
Now, that you wouldn't need to do if there were 87 people.
Well, for at least a few days. How long does it take to burn a body?
Yeah, but presumably you weren't putting them in one at a time.
Depends. I mean, we saw a glimpse of the incinerator. That was in the show, right? When Sims talked about burning his whole thing about like Bernard
burning Bernard,
dying from quote unquote poison, not being smothered in the face.
Yeah, I guess.
So I don't know. It looks like there was one incinerator because probably, but yeah, normally of course they bury bodies because that's
much more respectful.
Yeah, but because it feeds the farm. So
yes, it does that as well.
So, but what struck me about this running the incinerator 24 hours a day is, the point that Kathleen was making is it's easy to lose track of people or bodies. So, Lucas could have been just one of the bodies thrown in there. But also it made me wonder, was there evidence slipped in there also?
Quite possibly.
That would be a good time. It's like, oh, it's just burning. No one will notice this extra thing burned.
Yeah, so maybe Salvador Quinn's diary.
Who knows? All right. But Mr. Billings is also busy on investigation Orla. Paul Billings, Chinaza Uche, continues his investigation into the whereabouts of missing shadow to the head of supply Orla Kent, Quaylen Sepulveda. So for Elisa and Motor Riders, do let me know if I said it right this time. He interviews members of her family in a storage room off the marketplace. Her mother, Denise, Catalina Botello, says she's never gone even a day without hearing from her daughter. Sheila, Celine Arden, tries to reassure her parents as Orla's father, Rudy, Miltos Yerolemu, emphasizes his worries as well. Sheila walks Billings out, telling him how proud they were of her sister being the first in their family to achieve such a high position. And Sheila also tells him about Orla's new boyfriend, Mike Davidson, of whom she is suspicious because before that, he was in a relationship with the previous shadow to the head of supply, Ed Harwood's daughter, Glenda. What?
Wow, tea has been spilled.
What? How did you react to that?
Yeah, no, that is all kinds of red flag going on there. Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe Mike is involved in whatever this bit of pilfering from supply is. Maybe it might even be his idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he seems to be the thing in common. So yeah, Mike with his dog might turn out to be a criminal mastermind.
Like, but he has a dog. And then I said, but Hitler had a dog. I know, but he seemed nice and the dog seemed nice. They all seem nice. But yeah, no, of course, that begs the question, like, what if Glenda was framed as well?
Yeah, that's where I went as well. Like, what if actually Mike is the one behind this?
It reminds me of a worse version of what George did to Regina, where George, Juliet's, dead lover, when he was with Regina before that, he was kind of using her for this relics access stuff and then kind of left her to take the heat.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Mike, you got some splaining to do. And now, I kept saying that I was like, Orla, just tell him about the thing before you go. But now I'm like, oh, I'm glad she didn't.
I'm glad you didn't.
Although I suppose even if it was him, even just saying to him, I have an idea, I'm going to go investigate, that might have been, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Might have tipped him off. I don't know. Mike, say it ain't so. Find this dog a new home.
Yeah, quite. Don't hurt the dog. Never
don't hurt the dog. Yeah, it's interesting. We see like that the Kent family worked for supply for decades, but the parents seem to have moved to a marketplace job now. I suppose it's less physically. I suppose, like Orla talked about working the high line and the shelves and stuff. I suppose there's some physical demands to working in supply.
Yeah, and I wonder. It did sort of make me wonder whether there's such a thing as retirement in the silo. I suppose there must be at a certain point.
Carla said she wanted to retire. That's why.
Yeah, that's true.
Orla was being sent up to the meeting.
But I guess what I'm saying is it retiring from that particular job to get something less strenuous? Or is is there such a thing? Are there such a thing as pensioners in the silo? Is I guess what I'm asking.
Right. Because then, I mean, we know that, of course, there are people in long-term palliative care, like Gloria. But then, Mary Johns, for instance, when she and Marnes were having their, what if we ran away together? Well, their version of that is like, what if I just set up a stall doing portraits in the marketplace?
Exactly.
So maybe that's the retirement plan as you go to the marketplace.
Yeah.
Sheila also said that Orla seemed burdened recently. I mean, I suppose she obviously was worried about whatever was going on with critical supply, but I do wonder what Orla knew. I don't know. We'll obviously get back to Orla and her being carted out of the mines, but I put in the Discord chat, someone checking her breathing. I'm like, Orla, are you still alive? I'm not going to believe she's dead just yet.
Really?
Even if I'm putting on clown makeup. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. They need to bury her before I believe she's dead.
Fair enough.
Or burn her. All right. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll talk about the escalating algorithmic interventions. So Camille tells the algorithm about Juliet not taking her pills, but she thinks Juliet wasting her time on looking for Lucas Kyle, someone Camille feels confident she will never find, is a good thing. She hopes that Juliet will find confirmation of his death, putting the algorithm more at ease, and also lure Kennedy out. Camille is hoping that they can stop Plan Vitamin D Plus from going through, but the algorithm recommends the opposite, speeding up the water filtration plan. And this is, where we hear the data has been presented. The choice remains solely in your hands, along with the lines of 9,913 people. So it's implicated that the choice is do the reset, or if you don't and the problem isn't solved, then the safeguard's coming for you.
Yeah.
What would you do in that situation?
It's a horrible situation to be presented with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've got to sort of acknowledge that Camille's being asked to make a decision with no good outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I would do is what Camille is doing, which is to try and string this out for as long as possible and hope that something better turned up. But if it didn't,
yeah,
I don't know what I would do.
I mean, yeah, because if you're faced with the choices, everyone gets some amnesia or dies. Obviously, you would rather mass amnesia than death. And the algorithm tries to reassure her you'll be the same people even if you can't remember your past. And we kind of see that with Juliet and Knox's interaction later. Like, Knox is like, I remember who you are better than you are, but you're still being you right now. So, yeah, I think for Camille, it's like she's just like, my son will forget his childhood. But hey, good news. Everyone will forget their childhood.
Yeah, well, this is what I mean. I think we can do it a bit later when it comes to the conversation between Camille and Robert. But this is what I wanted to talk about, because this is what I thought was the most interesting part of the episode, because this kind of, to me, just revealed that vitamin D plus didn't work the way that I thought it did.
Okay. All right. Let me set this up and let's get into it. So Robert Sims Common is a father first. He takes his son, Anthony Oscar Coleman, to school. He's upset when he looks up to see Juliet waiting for him, where his son, who is still afraid of her, could have seen her. He says he'd rather spend the rest of his life in the mines for murder than let her near his son again. But she's there to ask Sims for help. She wants to know if he knows anything about Lucas Kyle, where he is, or why Bernard took him out of the mines to make him his shadow. But Sims clearly means it when he says, I wish I knew. Juliet stalks off, saying she'll stay away from his son. And Sims decides to take his son out of school for the rest of the day, hoping the family can spend some time together. But Camille says she's too busy to join them. She reprimands her husband for scaring Anthony more than Juliet did by yanking Anthony out of school without explanation. Camille's also suspicious why he keeps bringing up memories, and Robert shares his horror at Juliet not being able to remember her father, unknowingly compounding Camille's guilt, or at least maybe knowingly. Camille tells him about the barrels of vitamin D+, telling him she might have to release it into the water supply depending on what happens over the next few hours. She reminds her husband that he promised to do whatever it takes to keep their son alive so that he may one day leave the silo. Just then, Diego Akikutabe interrupts, showing up to update Camille. Juliet has breached the gap, but Emerson has people trailing her down there. So we'll get back to that part. But
so does that make him Diego Exposition this week?
Yeah, I suppose
so. He's gone from Diego Obvious to Diego Ambitious to Diego Exposition.
Oh, that's a slight demotion from Diego Ambition. But I guess he's being ambitious because he's now the one reporting directly to the head of IT.
I guess he is, yeah.
He's moving up. But yeah, you said you had some things you wanted to say about this whole exchange between Camille and Robert.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to sort of split this into two parts, which is, what does this mean for the plot? And what does this mean for the characters?
Okay.
I'm going to do what this means for the characters first, because this kind of reinforced what I said last week about the dynamics of the Sims' marriage changing, and Camille was sort of very explicit, did I ever ask questions when you were away for days and it was just me and Anthony? And yeah, I don't think Robert is taking very well to the new dynamic of their marriage. And I really do think maybe their marriage lasts to the end of season 3. I don't think it makes it all the way to the end of the show. I just think it's.
Do you think the characters make it to the end of the show?
I think the characters do make it to the end. Put it this way: I think both of them make it to the final episode.
Okay, I mean, and you don't think that their son keeps them together at all?
No, I don't know, and I don't think. Just as a matter of principle, I don't think people should stay married for their kids. I don't think that would.
I mean, but you think like they're put on opposite sides, but you think they're fundamentally broken their partnership?
Not yet, but I think that's where they're going.
Okay.
I think that's where it's going to end up. I think at the moment their partnership is under strain, and I think over time that strain is going to get worse to the point their marriage breaks down eventually.
I think that they'll end on the same page, but I do think it's going to be a struggle to get there. And I think that Camille has a good point, as you brought up, that, you know, Robert was the one who was always too busy. And now that the shoe's on the other foot, he's having trouble with it. And she points out also rightfully that the thing he keeps bringing up, he's so angry with Juliet about, he was not home with his family when it happened.
Yeah. And actually, you're probably making it worse, not better for Anthony. So yeah.
But he does apologize, at least, that he realizes, like, he's like, I know I'm late coming to this, but now I think it's important we have our family memories. But I can understand from her perspective, she's like, well, what's the point in forming memories that he's about to lose? She's obviously more worried about just keeping him alive.
Yeah. And I love the line that Robert comes out with. It's not just that she didn't talking about Juliet. It's not just that she didn't remember the man. She didn't have any feeling for him. You know, no, it's not just that she couldn't remember Pete Nichols. It's that she had no sense of ever having a dad. Which I thought was and I thought the way Common delivered that line, where his voice kind of cracks as he said it, was really quite affecting. And I think it sort of got to the heart of what Robert's fear is. It's not just being forgotten, it's Anthony having that hole in his life and never being able to fill it. It's kind of like what the spiritual sort of effect of lost memory is.
But the difference with Anthony, I mean, Juliet, if she doesn't remember her father, then that stuff's lost. I'm still expecting that little thing from her brother to show up and trigger memories and stuff. And I think she'll get her memories of her father back. But the difference with what would happen with, you know, the vitamin D reset is that, as Robert puts it, he's like, it's the same thing you're doing to Juliet, but lower and slower. So, it doesn't, like, Anthony will still live with his parents, and he'll still know that's his parents, and they'll form new memories together. So it's not like he won't be like, oh, I don't have any feelings for my father. He'll be like, there's my father. You know, as Juliet says, like he's like, Anthony still wakes up in the middle of the night afraid, and she's like, well, at least he still has you.
Yeah.
And that would continue to be the case. Actually, he would forget that Juliet ever threatened him. That fear would go away. And he would still know that Robert was his dad.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, although this is kind of what I want to talk about, because I think that this scene was really, for me as a show watcher, this scene was really interesting because from the way Bernard explained it to Lucas Kyle last season, I sort of had a different understanding of how the vitamin D plus worked. Because I assumed that what it was doing was, because, like Robertson says, it's lower and slower, I assumed that what it was doing was just suppressing the most recent memories that people had, i.e. the rebellion. So, like, and Also, Robert talks about this with Patrick Kennedy. You can tailor the dose of the memory suppression drug so it can take weeks, months, years, whatever. You can't, in other words, you can't select for particular memories, but you can select for a period of time that it would suppress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that the way that Robert Sims described it to Patrick Kennedy did kind of make it sound that way. But I'll say the way when they, this whole thing about releasing it in the water, we know that in this universe they did do it during the rebellion 140 years ago. As a book reader, you actually get a section of, or half of a section of Shift, the second book, that's dedicated to that rebellion, and you see this happen. So what you see happen at the end of it is, yes, this has been released in the water, and you have your character with central perspective, Mission. And for example, Mission had a friend who died. And so after this reset, like he didn't really remember there's a reset. He's just kind of, there's like this complacency that kicks in with this slow dose. But things like he didn't remember his friend that died, but then he remembered the name. He's like, I like that name for some reason. I think we should name our kid that name. It feels like a good name, but he didn't associate, he couldn't remember the friend.
Okay. But this is where I think this is really interesting, because there's so much potential for the process of this reset to go wrong in ways that would be fatal for a silo. So
How so?
let's just give a really obvious example. What happens if the head of mechanical turns up and doesn't remember how the generator works?
Yeah, okay, no, but it's not that. It's more, there are, it's not targeting like muscle memory or something. So for example, if you knew how to play the cello, you would still probably know how to play the cello, but you wouldn't remember having learned it per se, except that maybe that comes back through your interacting with the cello.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's assume for a second that you can do that. But like, let's just talk about the scenario that the Sims were talking about, that Anthony would lose memories of their parents. Now the Sims are going to know what's happening because they're in on it, but other families are going to go through that experience and not understand what's happened.
Yeah, that's why it's low and slow. So the idea is that people don't really necessarily notice it's happening. There's just like some brain fog. And then it's, people don't get upset about what they don't remember.
So is it also acting as like a tranquilizer?
No, it's just that it's the tranquilizing effect is more so that you're forgetting what you were upset about.
Because I could just like see like people panicking that they couldn't remember stuff, and like that in itself caused being the catalyst for a rebellion or just a more general like societal breakdown.
Yeah, no, so that's the whole idea of why it has to be dribbled out slowly rather than just having a mass dosage. So it's like people aren't clinging to things like I don't remember what I had for lunch 2 days ago. If it were really important to me, I would hold on to that longer, but that's just something I'm happy to let go and not question why I let it go, that sort of thing. And I think with this slow dose, it's more like that more and more things you let it go and you're not worried about it because you don't remember to be worried about having to remember something.
Okay.
And that's where people like Juliet, and I'm not saying that nobody will feel that way. That's why people like Juliet, who the 10% who are resistant to it, that's why they're a problem. And in that flashback story about the rebellion in Silo 18 and Shift, there is a character who is specifically such a problem and needs to be taken out. Her name's Mrs. Crow.
Okay, but like, I get that you're not really bothered about what you had for lunch 2 days ago. But if you're in a family situation and let's say you can't remember how you met your partner,
yeah,
like that's going to cause like major distress to way more than 10%.
But if you're in a society where where that's the norm, where it's like nobody can remember.
I guess.
Huh?
It just strikes me that this is a very sort of delicate, risky. I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but I'm just saying this is a very delicate, risky road to tread. And I still think you would have. Who knows? They can write this however they want because it's a story. But I still think you would have difficulty like at walling off those kind of interpersonal memories from like procedural memories. So I could see like a scenario where the head of mechanical doesn't remember quite how the generator works. Like I could see that.
I mean, that's what the manual's for, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Like I can just see an episode coming up at some point over the next
if
16?
they start the D+ thing. It hasn't started yet.
But no, I could just see them maybe finding another silo where the reset went wrong in some fundamental way.
Okay. I'll grant that it might have happened in a silo or two, but it would be a lot if it happened in all, because he said 6 had successful resets. Yeah. I don't think we can make the leap that 44 didn't and are dead, or,
No, but I think some of them might have.
Certainly it's possible. A lot of things can go wrong. And I'll say that is something that in the book we did get, and I wonder if we will here, but we did get more teases of different, like we get some more teases of different ways, different things happen in different silos. Whereas here, this is what I was talking about last season about, I didn't like that they said that that there was something in the order about how you always blame the revolution on mechanical or something. Like, no, I think there's all kinds of different reasons why things happen, and it shouldn't always be the same.
Okay.
Anyway.
But yeah, I just thought as a show watcher, this sort of really... It didn't contradict what came before, but it gave you a lot more... It changed my sort of opinion on what a reset is and how it worked, because my sort of working hypothesis was that it would be it would completely suppress your memories, but for quite a limited period of time. Yeah.
No, not for a limited period of time, but you can, as Victor laid out in the last episode, you can pull memories back out.
But that would be difficult to do for 10,000 people.
Exactly. Well, the point is in that case not to do that.
Yeah.
So just a couple little notes. One that I liked, that it's apparently Anthony's and Daisy class. So I'm like, oh, is that his grade? Which just reminds me of Girl Scouts. Daisy, although he's older than that. Another thing that stuck out to me was when Juliet was like asking the questions about Lucas Kyle and why did Bernard pull him out of the mines and make him his shadow? And Sims is like, I wish I knew. And I'm like, oh, I bet you wish you knew. But I also feel like in that was also that Sims wishes he knew why the algorithm chose his wife over him as well.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know whether this is a bit of acting that Common does or whether it's just what happens to Common when he gets annoyed. But if you notice, when Sims is emotional, or particularly when he's angry, his voice goes substantially higher.
Okay,
he goes a little bit squeaky.
Okay, yeah, I guess that happens with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Another thing that stood out is Camille's like, we said we'd do whatever we can to protect our son's life. Sure. And then she said to make sure he walks outside one day. I'm like, lady, nobody's walked outside for 352 years. Why do you think your son's going to be the one?
Yeah, and I never heard them have that conversation before or even hint at it.
No, I'm like, why, Camille? Where's that coming from? Yeah, is that just delusion?
Yeah, where did that come from?
Yeah. Also, okay, linking to the Robert being jealous thing, it is awkward when Diego shows up at the door, and Diego used to work for Robert, but now Robert has to leave the room so that Diego can debrief his wife.
So he's Diego uncomfortable.
Yeah, Diego making it awkward. Oh, but yeah, and then we We get the sweet interaction where Rob's like, okay, I'm going to take you to lunch and then I'll take you back to school. But Anthony can see his dad's upset. So what does he give him? He gives him the Pez dispenser to comfort him.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah. But also they want us to remember that damn Pez dispenser.
Yeah. they better have a good explanation of why that's so bloody important.
Well, I mean, it seems, at the very least, it seems like it had survived, assuming it's the same one that we see Daniel give Helen on their not date. It seems to have survived and be some way of tracing from that time.
Yeah, I suppose it does tell us that this is the same, the same reality, but I think we all knew that anyway.
Yeah, but I think it's more that there's going to be reveals of like, well, how did the Pez dispenser get in this silo?
That's true.
And even book readers are talking because there's no Pez dispenser in the book. So book readers are like, well, what does this mean for the story?
So you're telling me that you have no more idea what happens to the Pez dispenser than I do?
No.
Oh, I love this. I love this.
No, we've been discussing how does it get into that silo and what does it mean for what we know of the story?
I love it when we have this kind of equality.
All right. Well, speaking of building bridges, Juliet finds Shirley at the stair repair construction site. Teddy, Olatunji Aofi, seeing how upset Shirley is, says he'll speak to Juliet. But when Juliet tries to steamroll Teddy's objections to her crossing the gap for safety reasons, Shirley intervenes to call out Juliet for being pig-headed, and Juliet confronts her about ignoring her note, which Shirley unconvincingly lies about receiving before claiming she was just too busy, and then finally admitting she's just hurt by quote-unquote Madame Mayor not recognizing her best friend. And Juliet reminds her that not having her memories hurts Juliet too, and calls her out for not being a great best friend if she's not willing to help her. Juliet asks Shirley to take her where she took Lucas Kyle, and Shirley says it's not possible because the area is sealed off. So Juliet just helps herself to a trip across the gap on her own terms. Knox intercepts her at the bottom, reiterating that they really don't know where Lucas Kyle is, and the Digger Void really has been sealed for 3 months by Martha. And when he demands Juliet let him help her, she asks him to make it make sense why Bernard would pluck Lucas from the mines to make him his shadow. Juliet assumes that Lucas must have learned something about the mines that made him of interest to Bernard. Knox says he'll take her to talk to a guy with some mines in sight. So Shirley was so distracted by Jules' arrival, she nearly caused an accident, luckily hurt no one. But I'm glad they finally had it out.
Yes. Yeah, clear communication, people. We got there in the end.
What do you think about this? What are your current thoughts about this whole Martha having? We still haven't seen her yet, have we? We saw her talk to Juliet upstairs. Yeah. So, but we don't know what she's up to down there. I'm still suspicious of her having sealed off the Digger Void.
Yeah, although
it doesn't look like Lucas was there as far as we know. It seems like he was in the mines, but still.
No.
Okay, here's my question is, do Shirley and Knox even know if we both agree Martha's up to something? Do Shirley and Knox, I feel like I believe them when they say they really think it's just closed off and or do they know?
And I mean there is a perfectly good reason to close it off. It is dangerous.
Sure.
Particularly if people are wandering around, like Knox said in episode 1, if kids get in there and they don't really know what they're doing, people could easily get hurt.
But what does it even mean to seal it off? Like, did they put concrete in there or something?
Yeah, and if that's the case, Walker couldn't do that by herself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, she could have directed it and had it overseen, but then, it's just suspicious. Did Walker go down and find the door? But the door wouldn't speak to her, of course.
Yeah, as Walker just put a load of police tape across it, do not cross kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Also, when Juliet goes down on that rope with the counterweight on it, she's not wearing gloves, so she would have burned her
She
hands.
did. No, she grabbed gloves from Teddy.
Oh, did she?
They were like
Okay.
tucked in Teddy's pocket, and she just like
Okay.
took them from him.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Because I was wondering about that. She'd have burned her hands to buggery doing that.
Yeah. Also, I've seen some confusion from people who are like, well, why does Juliet think that Bernard plucked Lucas from the mines because he learned something there? And I'll just say that's Juliet's assumption.
Yeah.
We, as viewers, we know from last season that that's not why. He wasn't like, oh, you know something from the mines. He was just, Judge Meadows said Lucas was bright and curious. And Lucas proved to be a good investigator and code cracker.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's kind of to Bernard's credit in a way, the fact that he valued that, because I don't think the algorithm values curiosity. But Bernard,
it says later on.
Mhm.
Is it later on or is it earlier? Where he's talking
Later.
Okay. Where the algorithm explicitly talks to Camille about why she
Right,
was.
why are you? Yeah.
And it didn't have anything to do with curiosity.
No, yeah. So, I mean, I wonder if, I guess, probably that's Judge Meadows' lasting impact. That was her lasting impact on Bernard, is that because he was obviously smitten with her.
Yeah.
Even though he killed her. He was smitten with her in his sociopathic way.
Yeah.
But he, that he liked that curiosity about her, and it made him value it in Lucas as well, because maybe it sparks some, and maybe that will be the same with Camille and Juliet. Maybe that's what she sees in Juliet. She's like, Juliet dares things that even I wouldn't, and respect.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting the mines are still painted as a nightmare. We'll talk again about that shortly. Okay, so let's check in. Meanwhile, there's some outsider intrigue at the same time. Kathleen is meeting with Sandy, Chipo Chung, and Danny Bly, Will Merrick, for a quiet conversation in the corridor. Kathleen says Juliet may be off her game, but she's still sharp. Maybe she really can find Lucas Kyle. But Danny, who's been helping to look for Lucas for months, is skeptical. They reveal they've also been having Juliet followed, today by a woman named Bobby, who saw Juliet headed toward the Gap. My question is, if the Gap is level 19 where IT is, or around that part, so it makes sense Kathleen is the sheriff's wife, lives above it, but and if Danny worked for IT, then yeah, he would also live around that part, obviously. Sandy's last known workplace was level 105. So I'm like, is she living upstairs now? Or have they found another way around the Gap with their whole digging behind thing?
I sort of assumed it was that they've got like a parallel, that they've got like a tunnel that is running vertically up at least part of the silo.
Okay. All right.
Which does lead me back to what we were saying last week, which is I hope they haven't compromised the structural integrity of the silo, because
I mean, it's packed with, well, yeah, except the mines are digging around it too. So yeah. I mean, I guess the algorithm wouldn't let them dig like that. The algorithm presumably doesn't know about them digging through the walls, but the algorithm wouldn't let them dig in the mines if that were a concern. I don't know. They must know about them digging in the walls too. No.
Yeah.
A lot of I don't know. But who does know a little bit of something is the man who escaped the mines. So Knox takes Juliet to see Mark Chambers, George Robinson, in tool fabrication. And Juliet asks Mark about Lucas, pointing out that despite Mark saying that people don't come back out of the mines, Mark got out of there. But Mark is extra skeptical about Lucas's survival once he learns he was an IT guy before his mine sentence. Juliet says it doesn't matter if Mark believes her. She just wants to know what he might have learned in there. And Mark insists there's nothing to learn. Lucas just got lucky. So, yeah, I'm now calling him Snarky Marky, because he points out that Juliet used to be Knox's shadow, but now he works for her, which it looks like is news to Juliet. She did not remember that part, and she's like, oh, oops. But yeah, he's Snarky Marky also says the only thing in the mines are metal ore and death, which is, again, a way more intense depiction than in the books, which we'll get to. What did you think?
But you can get a safe job cleaning toilets, apparently.
Okay. Wow. Which is not. We'll talk about what we learn from Camille's computer search about Snarky Marky. But what did you think about this exchange? Any thoughts?
I just really like Mark. I just really like Mark Chambers. Although I do think he's being unnecessarily snarky here. And yeah, like I think somebody from IT is going to have a particularly bad time in the mines because IT is one of the cushier
Sure.
jobs in the silo. So that does make sense. And also, like in fairness to Mark, like Juliet is asking him to talk about something that's fairly traumatic because yes, he made it out of the mines, but he did end up with a disability, presumably from some sort of accident. So
Yeah.
probably not something he wants to talk about.
Yeah. All right. Let's set that up. So, Judicial Goon in Chief Emerson, Florian Claire, updates Camille on Juliet's whereabouts. And Camille tells her not to have Chambers questioned. I love she says Chambers will either tell her nothing or send her in the wrong direction just for fun.
Yeah, she knows Mark Chambers.
Like that's the snarky marky part I enjoy. I'm like, direct that energy at the powers that be, not at Juliet. And then Camille returns to the algorithm room to ask about the distance between silos, which the algorithm is not willing to discuss. Camille accepts this, but points out that Lucas would know about the existence of the other silos as Bernard's former shadow, and she's afraid that he returned to the mines to tunnel to another silo, possibly the one Juliet went to. The algorithm says that if she believes this to be true, it's time for her to do something about it because any silo-to-silo contact would lead to immediate implementation of the safeguard. So Camille tells Emerson to send a rat extermination team to the mines for an immediate fumigation. The miners be damned. Camille now thinks the chance to take out Lucas Kyle is worth any accidental casualties incurred. Meanwhile, downstairs, Juliet notices the woman Melissa, Adesi Ifeyinwa, following her and Knox, and they give her the slip. Juliet is now thinking less about what Lucas might have learned from the mines before being pulled out, and is now thinking that the mines would actually be an ideal place for a guy on the run to hide out for the past 3 months. So Juliet is determined to go to the mines, and Knox feels he has no choice but to go with her. But yeah, part of this is so Camille looks up Mark, and I paused and took down all the information that she sees on the computer. So what we learn about Mark from his file on Camille's computer is that he's an only child. His mother, Marilyn, worked in the laundry until she died in childbirth on May 17th, the year 114 after the revolution. So after that whole the last reset. So he was born in 114. That's an important thing to remember. His father, Silas, was a machinist in tool fabrication, so where Mark works now. And Silas was killed in a machine accident in 132, so Mark was 18 when his father died, and he became an orphan. We learn he was treated, when he was 2 days old, he was treated for jaundice. We learn that 2 years after his father died, he was treated for a concussion sustained while using drill equipment while he was serving time for possession of contraband machine parts. 5 months later, still in the mines, there was a spinal laceration from falling rock debris. So that's how he ended up in the wheelchair.
Okay.
Criminal history is a month after his father died, he was caught for petty theft of mechanical supplies and put on 3 months of trash duty. 6 months after that, suspicion of petty theft, but released on insufficient evidence. 8 months later, he was arrested for possession of contraband machine parts and put on 6 months of trash duty. And then 1 year after that, he was arrested for possession and assembly of contraband machine parts. And that's when he was sent to the mines. And then, so yeah, he worked in the mines basically only 6 months. And in that time got a concussion and then a spinal laceration.
Yeah. That pretty much backs up everything everybody's been saying about the mines.
Yeah. So that's why he's like, It's a death sentence, yeah. And I guess Knox pulled some strings to get him back in his father's old job, it seems. Not that his father was the head, but he was a machinist, and then apparently Mark just rose up to the top of that department.
Okay.
So that's the story of Mark Chambers. It was nice seeing Knox and Juliet together joking around.
Yes, it was.
Like, sorry I wasn't more helpful. It's okay, I'm just going to hold it against you forever. I'm like, yeah, that sounded like Juliet and Knox.
No, it was for as long as I can remember.
For as long as I can remember. That's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to point out that we also saw Billings running down the stairs at this time. I guess, his Orla investigation. I don't think he was necessarily running in the direction of the mines, but then when he sees the fumigation stuff happening, he's like, what's going on? And they tell him, and now he becomes interested in what's going on in the mines for obvious reasons. And also I want to shout out Siobhan Logan on Blue Sky responded to us, and she said, is Camille going to the dark side, desperate to save her son's memory of them and his life? What's a woman to do with a genocidal gun held to her head? So that's the question. Any thoughts on that?
I kind of thought Camille was already on the dark side, so I don't think she's going to the dark side. I think she's already there. She's been there for a while.
I've always thought, I mean, yeah, we'll talk in shortly about her. I've always thought there was a softer side to her. I have a soft spot for Camille. I don't think she's as bad as people say she is, but we'll see. She has a chance to prove herself one way or another. And on that, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we will finish up the episode and talk about the book version of The Mines and how it compares. Be right back. Okay, so let's check in on, we got some death dealers on the loose. As the fumigators begin filling the mines with gas, the miners try to escape through a locked gate that some judicial goons race to unlock. I shouldn't call them goons here. They did the good thing, at least there. People begin spilling out and collapsing, and Knox rushes in to look for head of mines Ed Hardwood, and Juliet grabs a gas mask as she's filled in on what's going on from another miner. Inside the mines, she gives her mask to a man who is choking, who, instead of sharing it with her, just takes it and runs away. But Juliet keeps going deeper, with only her jacket to protect her, until she eventually collapses. Someone with a cloth mask finds her and carries her out, and it's Lucas Kyle, Avinash. But Judicial has spotted him, so with Juliet safely back outside the mines, Lucas takes off running. And the goons send for a medic for Juliet, and Knox reemerges as well. Judicial pursues Lucas, who ducks into a storage room, losing them, and he arms himself as he waits. But when the door opens, it's not Judicial, it's Danny Bly and Sandy. They've found their man, finally. Billings finds his missing person as well, but it's not good news. Orla Kent is carried out of the mines, presumed dead.
And I've got to say, if she's not dead, she's certainly very ill at this point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She was certainly at least unconscious.
And looking very, very, very sort of...
Right.
Not good. I can't really think of a better way of putting that.
But is it, the question is, was she already, is this because of the poison? Or was she already not good before that?
Yeah, that is a good question. The thing that puzzles me about this whole thing is, how is Camille going to explain this at the next council meeting?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll talk about that in a minute, but just for the mines action. Well, first of all, Knox, Juliet, she had her jacket and she fell down. Knox was only using his t-shirt. Does his t-shirt have superfiltration action? Or my headcanon was because he was perfectly fine. He ran in, I guess he didn't go as deep as Juliet.
Yeah.
But he was perfectly fine. So I decided, remember last season when there was rat poison in the food in Mechanical, and he just wipes it on his pants instead of washing his hand? I'm like, he's built up a tolerance.
that is a good, that is good headcanon. I'm like, headcanon.
But yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see Lucas talking to the outsiders. He's about to drop some serious truth bombs. And I need to know who got Orla and why. And like, it seems like the fact she's found in the mines seems to finger Ed Harwood. But now, why do I feel like this Mike boyfriend dude
Oh, Mike
is
Boyfriend,
framing
yeah.
him?
Mike Boyfriend is shady as hell. I'm saying Mike Boyfriend is the big bad here.
You can get me if a dog loves you. Like, I mean, like, you can fool me into thinking you're a nice person if a dog loves you. Like, dogs are good they good test of character. And then yeah, someone will bring up Hitler had a dog, and I know. Okay. So then we end with the double debrief. Juliet is now in a hospital on oxygen under the care of Nurse Amy. And Amy expresses worry that Juliet might not make it, emphasizing the importance to Emerson of keeping a close watch on Juliet's door. Only Juliet's doctors and Mrs. Sims, of course, may enter. The algorithm tells Camille that she has a unique opportunity. The voice says she can greatly increase the silo's survival probability by killing Juliet and using her story of bravery as propaganda to bring the rest of the silo together. So first of all, are we worried about Deputy Jerry, who's probably in trouble for letting Juliet do her own thing?
Yeah, Deputy Jerry is in serious trouble. Because it can't be like, oh, she gave me the slip. And what, you've just been standing there that whole time?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, can we just rip off the Band-Aid and say that we don't think Juliet's going to die?
No, I mean, like I say, it's Rebecca Ferguson, big star, executive producer. I don't see how you can get plot armor thicker than that.
Yeah. But yeah, I completely agree with what you were saying before. Like, this whole story, Juliet's a hero. Regardless, if people remember this, Camille comes out of... How does Camille not come out of this looking like a villain?
Yeah, like, how are you going to explain this at the next council meeting? There was a rat infestation. We had to drop the bomb. Well, you could have told everybody first. You could have evacuated the mines. Like, what rat infestation is such an emergency?
Urgent. Yeah, you're afraid they're going to eat the iron?
Yeah, like what?
What kind of rats do you have down there?
Like, Bernard did this with, like, the good... I mean, it had less fatal consequences, but Bernard did this with the good tape last season. How are you going to explain? You're just creating more problems for yourself. And this is worse because there's no way of explaining this. There's no way of spinning this. People have died for no good reason. So, yeah, I really don't know where Camille is going to go with this.
Well, then it also makes me think, like, is the algorithm going to paint Camille as the villain now, like they did with Bernard? Like, does she become the liability, and now the algorithm's like, now we get rid of her or something?
Absolutely. But then again, there is no shadow to the head of IT at the moment.
Yeah, true. I mean, yeah, they'd have to find another and start over. Maybe the algorithm would like that. Like, let me just start over from scratch with someone.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who do you think the algorithm would choose next, if not Camille?
Good question.
Billings?
Yeah, I'm going to say Billings.
Even though his wife does the algorithm know that Kathleen has been with the outsiders? I guess not, because
if you're gonna do Curiosity, maybe Walker. But no,
but I don't. But the algorithm doesn't like
that's
Curiosity.
Bernard things. That's Bernard's thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So the algorithm says, "Have you ever considered why you were chosen to be head of IT?" And my note is no, because it certainly wasn't for her curiosity. But yeah, she's like, "Is it? I assumed it was my training as a raider." And the algorithm's like, "No." My ability to remain calm under pressures and see orders through? No. It's because you're a liar. So I just remind, this whole thing about Juliet being confronted with parts of herself reflected in other people. And she's like, oh, am I a good person? Or we saw it with Charlotte too. She was like, I don't sound like a great sister, in the last episode. And now Camille's like, oh, I'm a liar. That's my identifying feature. Yikes. And she especially, the algorithm called her out for manipulating her husband. And she's like, ooh, I did that. Ooh.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
Playing both sides, overcoming moral qualms. The algorithm says at its core, the job requires deception.
And the algorithm is not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, but does it have to? That's the question. Does it actually require deception? Or is that just the way that the order is written? Is the order the best way to do things? And at the end of the day is the question.
Yeah. Also, I find it, like you put in the show notes, I find it really interesting that the algorithm can detect when people are lying and can, like, read people's biometric signs.
Yeah. Because the algorithm questions Camille's ability to be 100% calculating, citing the time that she let fugitive Juliet go after she broke into her apartment to watch that video. And Camille's like, yeah, no, I was worried about the raiders putting my son at risk, which is what she told Robert about it. But the algorithm calls her out for lying because it can measure her like cortisol in her breath, or what is it, elevated heart rate, whatever.
Yeah, no, it was cortisol on her breath.
And something else too. But maybe I'm thinking of Daredevil with that's how Daredevil tells people are lying. And Camille finally says, fine, I admired Juliet, her curiosity and her determination, and wanted to see what she would learn. But she says it's a mistake, and that she's like, well, if it's between my son remembering his childhood and murder it is. But do you believe her?
I think she's still looking for option C. I don't know what option C is. And don't get me wrong, I think if it is a straight up choice between the vitamin D plus and the safeguard, she will choose the vitamin D plus. But she's not there yet. She hasn't resigned herself to that being her only choice.
Yeah, fair.
Because I think at the end of the day, what she was saying to Robert earlier on does reflect how she feels, you know. Anthony may not remember parts of his childhood, but he will be alive. And I think that's the thing. I don't think she cares about what happens to the rest of the silo, but I don't think that's right. She doesn't care as much about what happens to the rest of the silo as she cares about what happens to Robert and Anthony. I think, to sort of paraphrase Tyrion Lannister, you love your children, it's your one redeeming feature. That and your cheekbones. And I do think for both Sims, the one redeeming feature is they love each other and they love Anthony. I think that is what redeems them as people in my eyes.
And this is why I don't share your relationship nihilism when it comes to The Sims, that I don't know that either of them will make it out, or that either or both will make it out, but I see either way, if they survive or if they die, I see them ending on the same team. That's my prediction, because I think they do have a partnership that can be tested. But I guess I need to believe that partnerships can be tested and still make it through. And they have every reason for it because of this shared love of their son and shared values and all that.
I guess, yeah. Are we? Wait a minute. Are we rooting for the Simses? Is that where we've ended up
as a couple? I mean, not to take down the silo, but I'm rooting for the Simses. Two things. I would love for them to find security in their love and let their love save them as people morally too. I'm rooting for the Simses to have a redemption arc of some kind.
Okay.
All right. Before we get into the book version of The Mines, any final thoughts on the episode?
No. Like I say, tinfoil was in very short supply this week. It was mostly just I had a lot of questions. Okay. And I think you, as the book reader, Elysia, have done quite a good job in answering most of them. So,
yeah, I mean, because I think that this is an episode that is especially about mechanics, and I do think they're rearranging the parts of the story, but I think they're doing it in order to illustrate the same mechanics, which is like about the memory drug, especially at this point, obviously, and the relationship between the algorithm and the silo and the order and the pact and all that, but about the mines, there's some changes for the mines. So here's what we know about the mines from Wool, the first book. I'll just say that there's a scene, we just get like little, in the first book, we just get little like blips of information, kind of like we did in the first 2 seasons that covers the first book in this show. So, for example, for one thing, Juliet, when you look out of the cafeteria in the book version, you can see that's that ruined city that Juliet saw in the distance when she went up top, when she went outside. You can just see that through the cafeteria sensor because, for whatever reason, how it's positioned. You can see that city in the distance. And Juliet, the first mention we have of the mines is she's looking at it and she's seeing the tainted steel of crumbling towers visible over the hills. Steel it would no doubt cost more to reclaim, transport, smelt, and purify than it would to simply pull new ore from the mines beneath the silo. So again, beneath the silo, but I wonder if geology plays a role in them saying that apparently it's like around the silo.
Yeah.
And then there's another bit where she and Lucas are befriending each other in their cafeteria visits, which we get more of in the book. So basically she's comparing Lucas looking out to the stars. That's kind of his escape, he's got his day job in IT, but he looks out to the stars. And she's got her a day job in mechanical, which is way down at the bottom. So she doesn't normally look out at the stars. Her getting away from things is that she's spending what spare time she could down in the mines as far away as possible, hunting for pretty rocks. So it's not like this death trap, it sounds like. It's a place where she, as a non-miner, can visit and just go rock hunting to get away for a second.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah. There's another bit when she's in Silo 17 with Solo, and she's talking about, he mentions the digger in his silo. Since obviously each silo has a digger. That was just, again, for anyone who doesn't remember, basically it's implied that they just dug straight down and then just left the digger there and built the silo on top of it. And so she's thinking at this time about how she wants to get back to her silo. And she's like, "Ooh, what about that digger? Could we like do something with that?" And he's like, "Well, no, it doesn't work." And it's flooded. So no, we can't use that digger because it's all underwater anyway. But she also remembers helping to dig things out of the mines by hand, which I think is interesting. Yeah, and she also, it sounds like she's done mining work a few times just for funsies or to help or something, because when she's doing her dive in Silo 17, she thinks about when she's like pulling herself hand over hand with her breathing tube. She's like, oh, it's like pulling a mining bucket up out of a deep shaft. So like the mines were like her place to chill. Like I go to the movies, Juliet went to the mines.
Well, like you say, you can find pretty rocks down there.
Mm-hmm. Or she just sometimes helped them, it seems like. And then, the other time we really hear it mentioned is from like Knox Walker and Shirley's perspective. And I'll just remind people, I've said before, that there's another character in the book named Mark, Marck, who was Shirley's husband. But he doesn't exist in the show, obviously, and seems to have been folded into Knox. So Knox is during the rebellion, and he goes up a few levels to supply to like, let's team up in this rebellion thing. There's tension, and Knox is surprised by it because he's like, he had expected a more amicable welcome. Mechanical and supply had a long history together. They jointly ran the small mine beneath the lowest levels of mechanical that supplemented the silo's stockpile of ores. So it's confirmed the mines in the book below. Fine, different place. We talked about that. But also that mechanical and supply ran them together. Whereas here, it seems they're their own separate division, which Ed Harwood runs, or is the head of.
Okay. Or is that like a difference between the main mine and a little side project?
No, in the book, they're talking about the main mines.
Okay.
There's only one set of mines, I would say.
Okay.
And then, there's also during the rebellion, there's a reference where Mark notices that Shirley, his wife again, is looking nervous about the whole rebellion thing. And he says, she bit her lip and stared at him with uncharacteristic fear. Mark had never seen his wife fazed, not by a sprung casement leak, not by a cave-in deep in the mine that trapped several of their close friends, not even when Juliet was sent to cleaning. So, the cave-ins also a problem. Makes sense. Fine.
Yep, definitely.
Another one is during the rebellion, Shirley and Walker end up retreating to the generator room to sort of, that's like their last stand sort of place. But Shirley and Walker, actually, they're not fighting. They're working on a separate mechanical project. And Shirley needs a part. She needs a transmitter. So she decides, I guess Walker is like, oh, wait, you can get it from the mines. There's transmitters that they use for the explosives so that they, I guess, can set up an explosive and go away and transmit the thing.
Okay.
And so there's also a mining storage room under mechanical where Juliet runs to get this transmitter. And there's this whole tense interlude in the book where that happens. And so, yeah. It's also in Shift, the second book. We don't really get many references because, as I said, it's mostly about the backstory. But we do also get Solo's backstory in Shift. And during that, when he's locked himself in the vault and, he knows that there's other people outside who are threatening him and stuff. It says that basically he's listening in on them talking because he has surveillance equipment in there as well. And one of the things he hears them talk about is that the flooding came from the mines, which if it's at the bottom of the silo, that makes sense. It's groundwater coming up.
Yep.
And then, the last thing is a longer section. So there's something about the mines, and then there's something that's also interesting for another reason. So I'm going to set this up. And this is from Wool, when Lucas has been sworn in as Bernard's shadow to the head of IT. And Lucas takes the opportunity to confront Bernard about George Wilkins' death. He's like, okay, fine. I'm allowed to ask you questions now. Here's a question. And so Bernard just kind of answers him. And Bernard says, George Wilkins was a dangerous man, a man of ideas, the kind we catch in whispers, the kind who poisons the people around him. What? What do you mean? Section 13 of the order, study it. All insurrections would start right there if we let them start with men like him. Bernard's chin had lowered to his chest, his eyes peering over the rims of his glasses, the truth coming freely without all the deceit Lucas had planned. Lucas never needed that folder. He had found the travel logs that coincided with George's death, the dozens of wires asking Holston to wrap things up. But now he saw he never even needed to ask for the folder at all. There was no shame in Bernard. George Wilkins hadn't died. He'd been murdered. And Bernard was willing to tell him why. What did he do? Lucas asked quietly. I'll tell you what he did. He was a mechanic, a greaser. We started hearing chatter from the porters about these plans circulating, ideas for expanding the mine, doing a lateral dig. As you know, lateral digs are forbidden. Yeah, obviously. Lucas had a mental image of miners from Silo 18 pushing through and meeting miners from Silo 19. It would be awkward, to say the least. A long chat with the old head of mechanical put an end to that nonsense, and then George Wilkins came up with the idea of expanding downward. He and some others drew up some schematics for a level 150, and then a level 160. 12 more levels to begin with. That was a talk anyway, just whispers and sketches, but some of these whispers landed in a porter's ear, and then our ears perked up. So you killed him? Someone did, yes. It doesn't matter who. Bernard adjusted his glasses with one hand. The other stayed in the belly of his coveralls. You'll have to do these things one day, son. You know that, don't you? Yeah, but no buts. Bernard shook his head slowly. Some men are like a virus. Unless you want to see a plague break out, you inoculate the silo against them. You remove them. Lucas remained silent. We removed 14 threats this year, Lucas. Do you have any idea what the average life expectancy would be if we weren't proactive about these things? But the cleanings, useful for dealing with people who want out, who dream of a better world. This uprising we're having right now is full of people like that. But it's just one sort of sickness we deal with. The cleaning is one sort of cure. I'm not sure if someone with a different illness would even clean if we sent them out there. They have to want to see what we show them for it to work. This reminded Lucas of what he'd learned of the helmets, the visors, which again is, the fake green video. So thoughts. So yeah, there's about the lateral digs in the mines, but there's also stuff about the difference between sending someone to clean and just killing them is they have to want to believe what we want them to see for it to work.
Yep.
No thoughts?
No, I mean, I think it's quite interesting, the difference between the book and the TV series. While you were reading that, though, I did just sort of picture in my head it being Tim Robbins and Avi Nash.
Right, yeah. Me too, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even though obviously I didn't used to think that. But
No. But yeah, no. And you can also tell that whatever changes they made, Bernard is still Bernard and Lucas is still Lucas.
Yeah. I mean, obviously this exchange didn't happen but did we see? We didn't see. We saw Juliet directly confront Bernard about George. It wasn't that Lucas confronted him. But yeah, this could have very well taken place in the show. But yeah, no digging laterally. People have to see what you know. Yeah, they have to want to see your lies for them to work.
Yeah,
I think that's important also with the memory drug too, in a certain way. And I think it's true in real life that people just want things to be easy, and that's why the reset has worked 6 times, as the algorithm said, because people just want to accept the easy answer where things are peaceful.
I do have this image of digging of Patrick Kennedy, just Patrick Kennedy and the outsiders just running into the miners. Inside, you ain't seen nothing, right?
Yeah. And then some Benny Hill music plays, and they all run. Well, I guess Lucas has now met the outsiders, so I guess we'll see Lucas and Patrick Kennedy interact next week, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that conversation because Patrick Kennedy's little mind is about to be blown.
Yeah, one more comment that we got. I wanted to bring up. See your thoughts. Paul Kay said, in the 1950s noir version of Silo, Daniel is played by either Jimmy Stewart or Humphrey Bogart. Can't decide, a little of both. What do you think about that?
Oh, no. No, Humphrey Bogart doesn't even enter into the conversation. He is Jimmy Stewart.
I said Jimmy Stewart too, but then I said Jimmy Stewart because we talked about Jimmy Stewart, by the way, in the "It's a Wonderful Life" episode. If anyone's interested in that, for a Christmas special a few years ago. But yeah, you talked then about Jimmy Stewart was actually a hero pilot, so he's also Charlotte.
Yeah, yes, he is actually. Yeah, yeah.
Do we have an idea? Who do we think like who would
Helen?
No, I was thinking of Juliet in the Silo. No, because he's talking about Daniel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm saying Lauren Bacall for
Juliet.
No, for Helen.
For Helen, okay.
Yeah. I don't know about Juliet. Greg, Marlene Dietrich, possibly.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, that would work as well.
Yeah,
that would definitely work.
How about who would Cary Grant be? We have to give Cary Grant a role.
Bernard.
Oh no!
Like he's playing against type.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it could be interesting. Who's Lucas?
Oh, yeah, come back to me on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
no. Yeah.
Well, if anyone at home wants to cast the 1950s or 40s noir version of Silo, send us some feedback, and we'll continue to discuss our noir Silo
Oh,
castings.
and Robert Sims is Robert Mitchum.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm with you. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we will be back again next week as our full weekly coverage continues. And there will, of course, be weekly extras again in the subscriber feeds. In addition to your 1950s noir silo thoughts, we want to hear your overall thoughts and theories about the series as a whole. Please send them to willshiftustpodcast@gmail.com. You'll find that linked in the show notes. And as I mentioned before, our next mailbag probably won't be until after episode 6. But if there's more urgent feedback, I might sprinkle it in as we did here. And of course, book spoilers are okay in those emails because I will see them. But then those spoiler elements will be discussed in the book club episodes, including we do have some feedback we're going to discuss in this week's episode. So for more conversation, you can join the Discord, which you will find linked in the show notes. You'll find an invite there. And there we have a Silo forum currently under current. If you're listening to this later, you'll find it under shows and worlds. And there are separate spoiler chats per episode, plus a separate chat for book discussions. But if you want the full book breakdowns, that is in the book club, which is a separate Supercast and Patreon feed where Abby and I talk about all the book spoiler stuff, including this week's topic. We talked about the mines in Wool here. We'll talk about the mines in Dust, the third book, which I think they are setting up story from. I think that's why they're bringing this. Yeah, because as we said before, this season, Shift is more of a prequel. Dust is more continuing the Juliet story, so they're going to be mixing the two of them together for the last 2 seasons. If you're interested in joining the book club, you will find that linked in the show notes. The Patreon, the Supercast Silozen feed is the same as the Patreon feed. There's also season pass options if you just want access to the Silo episodes or parts of the Silo episodes. I'm looking at a way to put that on Patreon as well. The full subscription options get you all that, plus ad-free access to the other episodes and our other extras like our holiday specials and other Dune and Hugh Howey stuff. Thank you to the new Silazins who joined this week. Since this episode is already late and I'm a bit overwhelmed this weekend, I will be shouting out thank yous to you for the episode 4 breakdown. But I just want to let you know that I've seen it and I really appreciate your support. Luke, where can they find you?
So I am at Luke Middup on Blue Sky, and I also do a podcast, It Could Be Said, with 2 friends from university, Will Cooling and Simon Alvey. I think we are recording latest episode for July tomorrow, the 19th. At least that's the plan. So I'm not actually. We need to have our little pre-show meeting, so I'm not entirely sure what we're talking about tomorrow. So it'll be a surprise when you tune in for that.
And on the main Lorehounds feed, there's weekly coverage of the Vampire Lestat, which is just wrapping up this week. And then we're doing a season wrap up with Mark from Nevermind the Music joining, which if you know the Vampire Lestat, you know it's a musical season. And Mark's a big fan. We're going to have a great discussion about all of that to wrap it up.
Sorry, wasn't there an Elton John musical based on Interview with the Vampire?
What? Maybe. Oh, there was some sort of stage play, which I've never seen, but I know I've seen pictures of it. Was it Elton John?
Yeah, it was Elton John and Bernie Turpin, I think. I think it was a musical.
Yeah, no, it makes sense that it's a musical because the Vampire Lestat, the second book in the series after Interview with the Vampire, is about Lestat becoming a rock star. So that I guess, yeah, that's what the musical is about. That's what this season of television was about. And that's why there's music. But yeah, you can learn more about that and my obsession with that show in our weekly The Vampire Lestat coverage. There's also David and Jean are leading weekly House of the Dragon coverage, which is going on now. Jean and I will be putting out a Supergirl episode to coincide with it's releasing on digital July 28th, I think it is. So
Okay.
we'll put an episode to coincide with that. And also you'll find, if you go to the lorehounds.com, you'll find all of the different affiliates in the network, including Dungeons and Do-Rags, our newest podcast, which is also currently covering House of the Dragon. There's going to be a new Cosmere Corner podcast coming at the end of the month. Never mind the music, as I mentioned, you might have heard Nicole, the professor of psychology, who called in the mailbag episode. That is her and Mark, the music expert, as I mentioned. And you'll also find my own The Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast there as well. Any final thoughts, Luke?
Nope, that's it. You've milked me dry.
Can we come up with another one that doesn't make you sound like a cow?
Okay,
Because if you sound like a cow, then Common's going to turn you into a leather jacket.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.